Yay, we're recording now. So this week is just getting test out purchased and looking through the syllabus and course materials and getting the course ready to go.
I was going to say, I noticed on the grades it shows course start as a 25-point assignment. Is there anything that actually needs to be submitted?
There's nothing that needs to be submitted.
Okay.
Just simply go in the gradebook and put 25 points. Four of y'all have test out codes, I think, saying yes already. So, but I'm waiting for more people to show up into the class. Where did they have a yes beside it? So I think there's two more. One's in there, but waiting. I think just put in the code so it'll change to a yes next time I log in. And then our one absentee student, hopefully he comes back. Week 2, we're going to get a little bit of jump start on week 2. We already have this file on our lab computers, but if you had the capability at your home, you could download this Windows Server 2016 ISO file, and you could install and do most of the work at home with that file. And then, of course, next week is also working through Test Out Module 1. Make sure you're doing the labs and the quizzes. Try to get 100% on all of those. And then I give you points. I go and look to see. I look at the highest grade column and see what you've gotten. And I may change the grading on it. I don't know yet just how I'm going to grade. It says 80% or better, and I give you full credit. I'll kind of look at that and see what I'm going to do. If I'm just going to average it all together and multiply that by 40 to see what your points would be, if I'm still going to hold to the 80% or better. I may still hold to that 80% or better. If I look at the test out grade column and everything's 80 or better, you'll get 40 points. So we've already got that ISO downloaded, and we'll go ahead and set up in Hyper-V Manager. If you don't have a little icon in your taskbar that has the little office buildings that are two office buildings side by side that's cyan in color, you can click on the magnifying search feature and type in Hyper. And Hyper-V Manager will appear in the list, and you can just right click and pin it to your taskbar if it was not pinned to your taskbar. Because we'll be jumping to this almost every day when we come to class. Okay, so with Hyper-V open, this is what creates virtual machines. Many of y'all probably had operating systems and did virtual machines in VirtualBox. Hopefully. But we're going to software define a computer and install an operating system in it. So on the left side, make sure your AT computer name or whatever is selected. And over under actions on the right side, we have the option to do new. If you click on that, we can create 3 different things here: a virtual machine, a hard disk, or a floppy disk. We're going to do the virtual machine wizard to start off with. So new, and click virtual machine. It brings us up to a new virtual machine wizard. We'll click next. The virtual machine name. We're going to name it LAN1. Put your last name. And then after that, put RO for read only. We're going to use some features here of virtualization that are only done for lab environments, which, by the way, is exactly what this is. It is a testing lab environment. We would not do this in production. This read only. We're going to install 2016 and set this server up with some software packages, and then we're going to do something called sysprep, which removes any type of security codes and customizations out of it, and we're going to lock it as read-only and never start it again. And we're going to use that to base other virtual machines off of, basically kind of like a clone, so we don't have to install multiple times. So I'm showing you how you can do that. It also makes the clones only, they have a hard disk too, but the hard disk is only the changes from the clone. So when you clone off something like this, you can save tons and tons of space and roll out servers really quick. So this is only done for lab purposes, because if you try to do this in production and the original read-only gets messed up, everything cloned off of it's no longer workable. So this is only for testing, or if it gets blown away, well, you know, cool, we'll just recreate it. So I'm going to go next. Generations. If you got a 64-bit processor, you probably, or a 64-bit OS you're going to install, you probably want to go with generation 2. A 32-bit, you probably want to go with generation 1. So we'll click Gen 2 and go next. Memory. 2016 server will probably run, you could probably install it with a gig. I'd have to look at the exact mins on it. And we got lots of RAM in our system, so if you're trying to do this at home, I would at the very minimum do 2048 at the very minimum at home. Not going to be real happy, it'll be pretty slow, but if you try to replicate this and you got like 16 gig of RAM or so in your system, you might want to go that low. We got 32 gig in here, so we're going to 4096 megabytes of RAM, and we're going to click Use Dynamic Memory. Most of the time the server will run about 1.2 to 2 gig of RAM. It won't consume the full 4 gigabytes, and that is 4 gig, 4096. It's not an even 4000. Don't be tricked by hard drive manufacturers. That's when you buy a terabyte drive and it's only like 897 gig. Like, wait a second, there's another 100 gig there. They rounded so much. So yeah, 4 gig is not 4000. 4 gig is 4096. So if you're ever putting in RAM, put in real gig levels. Go look it up. Don't try to round. The system runs really slow if it's not what real memory would be, because we're installing a real OS, so it's wanting to see a real amount of hardware RAM. So go next. The network, we are going to use internal. That way we can all set up the same computer name, the same domain name, use the same IP addresses, because you can't do that on if it goes outside the computer, they will see each other. And they say, no, I'm not going to do that. So internal, these systems we're building our own network completely inside our machine. All network traffic is going to be within the RAM of our computers, but it'll act just like a real network. So next, the hard disk size, I believe we will select at 80 gig. We'll go next. The installation source. This is what we, that link I told you, but we already have them on these computers from other classes. LAN 2's already been in here and set up stuff. We're going to install an operating system from a bootable image. And click Browse. It probably takes you already to your C drive ISO folder, or if you're at home, you'd go to your downloads folder. Wherever you downloaded that ISO image, there was SW DVD9 server standard core data center core 2016 64-bit. So you're looking for that one. You probably only have one that starts with an SW DVD9 in there. So highlight it and hit open. And now we can simply click finish. So So that ISO image is a direct copy of a DVD. It would have like Windows 2016 on it. DVDs and CDs are becoming quite obsolete. Everybody's using thumb drives and using virtualization where you download the file to some storage media and you attach it like this instead of actually having a physical media to put into the computer. So we have a LAN 1 now. It's off. So you can right click on it and click on connect. And that will bring up a window. It's kind of like a remote desktop or into a system. There's the start button. We'll click start. We'll click inside the window and hit space bar. If you miss it and it comes up and says it can't boot, the play button up here will reset it and make it reboot, and then you can click in it, space bar. It's a safety feature that Microsoft's put on all of their operating systems so that it doesn't automatically jump up to an install and somebody that accidentally left the disk in and come back and turn their computer on doesn't just click through a bunch of settings and wipe their whole machine. I've had a lot of IT personnel and home users that have called and they've wiped their whole machine because they left the CD in and reinstalled the OS. I'm like, why would you do that? I've personally seen it done lots of times. So that's a nice safety feature. It gives a couple of seconds, and those few seconds there normally goes by before somebody can like realize and read and click. 2016, actually anything from server, I think it's 2008 onward, has been a pretty easy install. It's a graphical install. It asks you very few questions. In the past, it used to ask you everything: computer name, IP address, tons of stuff. Now it's asking your language. We click next, and it gives an install now button. We click that. It will ask us a few more things. This has more than one version of server on it, so it'll ask us what server version, because it's a special ISO that has multiple on it. And it will also, I think, show a licensing agreement. Maybe not a license agreement. And then what hard disk to put it on. Here you have to pay real close attention. Every version of server from 2008 onward, they have something called core, which is a text only. They don't put any graphics with it. You really want to know what you're doing before you put that on there. They don't use the word core here. They just default it to like 2016 standard. That's actually core with no graphical interface. You don't want that for your first install. It is the recommended to have most of your servers running at core and managing them elsewhere through graphics, but we're not going to. We want the full. We will do a core later on, but for this we'll do a full graphical desktop experience, and we are going to do the standard. There's not really a difference between standard and data center from 2012 through 2019. Really the only difference with those is the licensing if you're running Hyper-V. How many editions of additional 2016 servers can you have running inside of a virtual machine? Standard edition, if you install it directly onto a computer, it'd give you 2. Data center's unlimited. So we're picking standard here because we're installing it as a virtual machine, and we can't put a virtual machine inside a virtual machine, so it won't let us. And our systems, I'll go ahead and show you our systems here. Guess what they are? They're Windows Server 2016 Data Center, so that's why we can have multiple classes and roll out a large number of 2016 servers, because they'll auto license them. There's a special product key we'll put in there, and it'll auto license to run an unlimited number of virtual machines. And as you see, LAN 2's already got 2 running. If I had data center, I'd have to stop there, or I'd have to have additional license key to individually license each additional one, paying Microsoft 3, 4, 6 grand, whatever. So standard with the desktop. Go next. Yep, there's the license agreement. The special volume license CD we got for lab purposes here. And go next. We'll go to a custom install. We can't upgrade. Why can we not upgrade? We created a brand new virtual machine. There's nothing on it. There's nothing to upgrade. Everybody wants to click upgrade. It's like, what are you upgrading? You created something brand new. Got a brand new hard drive. You can't upgrade, so it has to do custom or install is what this is down here. It's not too hard. Just make sure the disk is auto highlighted. You just click next. Don't have to worry about it. It'll auto partition and fix it for you. And the install will happen. And these are going to be put on an SSD drive that we purchased and installed over the summer and set up the first couple of days of class. So they will be quite fast. Y'all won't realize just how fast they are because you'll instantly be used to the fastness. But people from LAN 2 are like, whoa, that's pretty cool. I had to reboot one of them. Normally when I restart, I like go and walk around the hallway and come back and do stuff. And I got to about row number 3 here, and I turned around and glanced, and it had already restarted, waiting for me to log in. Like, I can't even take a break. But yeah, if you install these on platter drives, a little bit slower, quite a bit slower. And while this is installing, and I was talking about it going on to an SSD drive, be careful with SSD. There's different quality SSDs. You're wondering why like a 500 gig SSD bought for an enterprise is several $1,000s, where one bought for a home computer might be like 50. It's like, why is the huge difference there? It's the way they manufacture it. The number of bits held per cell directly affects the quality of the drive or how the endurance of it. They have single bit per cell drives that can withstand years and years of heavy writing to it. And then they've got to where that you can have 2, 3, or 4 bits of data stored in a single cell. As you go up the number of bits, the power and stuff to write those bits in there burn those cells out after the quad level ones burn out like after those like under 100 writes or so. Normally those are built where that they have some single cell ones that they use for cache, where the operating system's writing temporary stuff, and it uses those for buffers, and it looks at data that doesn't change much and puts them in the quad level to try to keep the drive live as long as possible. So if you are going out for a SSD drive, research, don't try to get one with the latest quad level stuff in it. Especially if you do a lot of reading and writing, it'll wear it out fast. And you're buying the SSD to be fast and not have any movable parts to wear out and crash like the old hard drives. The manufacturers want you to keep buying new stuff, don't they? So they figure out a way to, hey, let's develop it this way and it'll wear out and you'll have to buy new ones. So the system will restart, and since they're doing lunch today, and we're already getting a little bit ahead of getting into next week's work of installing a 2016 server. Actually, the next week we're going to have 2 servers up and going and installed and set with IP address and stuff. And it'll be cloned off of this one. But this will be installed. We'll shut it down. We'll take an early lunch since it's free food day. And we'll come back. Actually, we don't need to shut it down. We just leave it running. When we come back, we'll connect back to it on Tuesday. We'll set the host name. No, we won't even have to set the host name. This is going to be one that we clone, so we don't care about the name. We'll install our software on it, and then we'll sysprep it and then clone off of it. So that's really all today. I'm just going to close mine out and I think go eat. It'll continue in the background. That's cool with Hyper-V. VirtualBox doesn't do that. So if you have the capability of Hyper-V versus VirtualBox, Hyper-V is better because you can close out and it'll run in the background. You can even log out of your computer. As long as you don't shut it down, the stuff will still be running and finishing installing.